Hey, what's up, guys? This is Justin Gaynor from Gentleman's Purpose. Glad to have you guys here on Gentleman's Purpose Live tonight. We haven't done a show in a little while, so I'm certainly glad to be back with you. If there is any trouble with the connection of the video, please accept my apologies. I have shifted locations from where I was last time. I'm actually in Lake Worth Beach, looking after a friend of mine's apartment through the end of the month here, and the internet connection here, they lack having fiber in this area, so we're just doing the best we can with what we have to work with, and that's a big part of the reason we haven't been doing the live stream over the last few weeks here. But I'm glad to have you here with us tonight. We have been continuing to produce the Gentleman's Purpose e-magazine, which you can go to gentlemanspurpose.com, or you can go to issue.com/Gentleman's Purpose to pick up the back issues on that. That's issuu.com/Gentleman's Purpose. And essentially, for those of you who are new to the show or new to the magazine, Gentleman's Purpose is a magazine designed to help men to identify and fulfill their purpose while keeping their balance in the various aspects of their life that have demands on their time and their resources and whatnot. And so in the magazine, we cover the topics of faith. We talk about relationships and style. We look at business. We discuss dining. We visit various restaurants and have certain things going on with those with regard to reviews and share recipes. We've got occasionally a gentleman who helps us with some articles on fine wines, so that we can kind of strengthen our palate in that area, as well as the dining that we do. We look at music. We've recently, in the last couple of issues, been really exploring the South Florida local music scene here, and we have also been looking at books, gear, and travel. And so, so this month in March, we've actually got a great publication for you, but I want to give a shout out real quick to everybody at the Anchor Inn. They have been just amazing. Rob and Gabby, who are working over there diligently with their team to just offer some great waterfront dining. The food has been just amazing. They recently started on Friday night something called Flatbread Fridays, where you get a flatbread pizza with for $5. Toppings are like 50 cents. Just a fantastic deal, and they pretty much have something going on every day of the week. So just want to give a quick shout out to them. The other thing I wanted to mention is within Gentleman's Purpose, you will find, because it is a digital magazine, you will find the opportunity to interact with various links to advertisers and people that we partnered with for the magazine. And you'll also find the opportunity to what we call hot buttons, the opportunity to give generously to various nonprofits that we work with, as well as funding writers, or if you're looking to, some items can be actually purchased through the magazine, because again, it is a digital magazine. It's interactive. You just click a link, just like a website in the magazine. It'll take you right to where you need to go to be able to explore those various vendors and advertising partners. And so that's all available to you there. And so, yeah, without further ado, in this month's episode, we got into some really good stuff. When we start talking about faith, it's just, we looked really at the idea of perseverance and reminding men that we do have a goal. We do have a common goal as men in life, and that goal has to do with a mission that we're on. And we actually, I was invited to speak as a guest today to offer basically a class at a local church here in South Florida, where we talked about the mission of the church and what men are called to, the common calling that we have, and then the unique calling based on our giftings that we have. And we really need to, as men, focus on soldiering on, because there is no way that we can actually persevere and accomplish all the things that we have been gifted and equipped to accomplish if we do not learn the value of perseverance and focusing on the goal and the mission that we have. And so endurance and faithfulness is something that we as men have to be intentional about growing in. And so a lot of times that can be difficult because, like when you go to the gym, you start putting up a certain amount of weight and you can do maybe 10 reps or 3 sets of 10 reps. And eventually you add a little bit more weight, and you grow stronger. The same thing is true about your faith and how you endure in faithfulness to God, faithfulness to your spouse, faithfulness to, if you're not married, faithfulness to your relationship, and those sorts of things. And ultimately, in this goal that we have three guiding principles, and that is faith, hope, and love. Those are the guiding principles. Those are the key characteristics of every gentleman who walks as a Christian. That is faith, hope, and love. And love is the greatest of these. And so we have this extremely high calling to offer a sacrificial love in the various interactions and relationships that we have in our life, and to endure in that and to be faithful to expressing that love. And that means laying our lives down and counting others as better than ourselves on a regular basis. Doing that consistently is not easy. It is difficult because we have our own desires, we have our own goals, we have things that we want to accomplish for us. And while those things are important and God certainly cares about those things, we entrust those things to God, and then we walk as He calls us to walk, in looking out for the interest of others as well as our own. And so this is it's an aspect of faith that is so incredibly important to focus on and to be intentional about growing in, because just like you choose to go to the gym to make sure that you stay in good shape, same thing with your faith. If you want to have ears that hear and eyes that see and a heart that follows after truth, then you have to exercise those things on a regular basis, which a lot of times means slowing down and actually listening closely to what's going on and paying attention to things a little bit more. Because a lot of times we as guys, we have so many demands on our time and our attention and our resources that we can very easily get kind of burned out and kind of drawn this way and that, and it can be very, very difficult. Oftentimes we have the things that are urgent in life overpowering the things that are actually important, and we need to be able to learn to say no to certain things and to be able to choose what it is that we're actually being led into at that particular moment. And that will always, always, always have to do with developing love that issues from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. And so the encouragement that we talk about in this month's edition with regard to faith is, getting that soldier mindset, getting that mindset that we are going to persevere, that we have a mission, we have a goal to accomplish, and we want to be clear on what that goal is. We want to understand the overall goal and calling of every gentleman, and then we want to understand our own personal gifts within the context of that, and how that actually looks on a day-to-day basis for us to engage in the workmanship that God is doing in our lives. One of the scriptures we looked at today as we were studying these things was from the book of Ephesians, where it tells us that we are God's workmanship in Christ Jesus. And that word workmanship in the Greek originally is poema, or poem. Our lives are God's poem, and as we allow Him to live His life in and through us, He basically writes this beautiful poem with what we do and how we love others and how we interact in our various spheres of influence. And so it's all based on faith, trusting that God is working these things out in and through us in order to bring glory to His name and help to fulfill His promise to us to give us a life that is truly life, both now and in the future. So really want to work on developing our faith, and that really has to do with identify your mission, know what the goal is, work on developing and growing in endurance and faithfulness, and always, always, always remember that love is our highest calling. In the very first commandment says, "You shall have no other gods besides me," and Jesus actually says, or the Apostle John tells us, that God is love. So if this self-giving sacrificial love that we come to understand by looking at and meditating on the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, if that is what love looks like, as we meditate on that, we have no higher calling or higher object of worship than God himself, which is expressed in that love that we see in the gospel. And so super, super important with that. Also want to, of course, as we're talking about faith, I want to give a shout out to the Mercy Fund at Christ Church in Jerusalem. One of the aspects of Gentleman's Purpose is, and my personal ministry, is that I always focus on encouraging people to send monetary gifts to Christ Church Jerusalem, either to the ministry there, the church that they have, or the Mercy Fund, where they reach out to people on the fringes of society in Jerusalem through the Christian church in order to make known the gospel there in the Holy Land. This was part of the Apostle Paul's ministry as he traveled around the known world to be a sign to non-believing Jewish people that Jesus Christ is the Messiah of Israel. When they start seeing the resources of the nations all over the globe flowing into Jerusalem freely of our own free will as a free will offering to God's glory, this is a sign to them that Jesus actually was the Messiah, and that when we talk about his resurrection, we are talking about a historical event that actually changed everything. And so if you go to christchurchjerusalem.org, you can check that out. And again, I encourage you to give to them regularly. Also want to give a shout out to everybody at Freedom Church of the Palm Beaches. Like I said, that's where I was basically showed up as a guest teacher today to be able to share a word with them regarding Ephesians. Super thankful for Pastor Joe Trapani, who has been instrumental in my own personal development in my faith. They've actually invited me back next week as well, so I will be delivering another message. We're going to stay in the book of Ephesians for next week as well. So just really excited to be able to contribute to the conversation and the discipleship that is happening there amongst their men's discipleship group on Saturday mornings, and just super, super happy about being able to be a part of that. The other thing I want to talk with you a little bit about is Common Grounds Community Development. This is an amazing organization here in Lake Worth Beach, Florida, which is where I presently am. And this is an organization that focuses on developing community within the Lake Worth area through teaching of the arts and various other aspects. They operate a church as well. It's a separate entity, but Common Ground Community Development and Common Ground Church are located at 1201. I think it's 1201, I want to say North Federal, South Federal Highway, or South Federal Highway. 1201 South Federal Highway in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. I've been recently working with Kelly Olive. She is the person who runs Common Ground Community Development, and I was able to deliver a class there. It was a 4-week class. We met on Saturday mornings, called The Art of Business, and basically we were able to offer it free to the community to help people who were entrepreneurially minded, thinking about starting a small business of their own. Or maybe they were already in business, and we were basically giving those classes as a way to help them to identify ways to build a strong, fruitful business. That was offered through my company, General Media Consulting, in partnership with Common Ground Community Development. And actually, if you go to generalmediaconsulting.com and hit the drop-down arrow at the top of the screen, there is a link there called The Art of Business, where you can actually watch a couple of those classes, things to help you with how to do networking well and build human social capital, as well as a couple other videos from those 4 classes that we did. And so I would definitely encourage you to give generously to them. There's a link in this month's magazine to be able to financially support the lessons and workshops, the events, and the roundtable discussions that they are having to develop the community and grow the community here in Lake Worth Beach. And so encourage you to give generously to them. Also in this, as we get into the idea of relationships, this month we talked in the magazine about sex. I mean, everyone likes sex. I don't know anybody that doesn't like sex. However, we are in a situation where, while one of the most beautiful things about being a man is women, we live in a society that has significantly reduced the value of sexuality, and some of the fallout of that has to do with sex trafficking and all these other horrible things that we see happening when we lower our view of sex and what it actually brings to a human being, what happens in the spiritual realm. Like if you're looking at sexual relationships as strictly physical, and you are a person who, let's say, is secular, and so you don't really think of souls or things that are going on in the spiritual realm, then what ends up happening is sex becomes something just animalistic, which is, sounds like a lot of fun, but the reality is, because we are human beings, because there are things called souls, because there is an actual spiritual realm, the things that we do physically have impact on what happens in the spiritual realm. And when two people come together in a sexual relationship, this is one of the most powerful relationships, the most powerful activities that can happen between a man and a woman is coming together in sexual relationship, because it establishes soul ties. It also establishes some things that happen in the spirit. And if anybody has been hurt by someone with whom they have actually had sexual intercourse with, uh, those wounds are very, very deep. And those wounds can actually cause people to have a lot of problems their whole lives. I've dealt with and talked with a lot of people who have experienced sexual trauma as young people, whether it was being molested or raped or any of those sorts of things. In addition to people who have walked in a lot of promiscuity. Now, no, again, everybody likes sex, so people love having sex. We go and we do what we do, and the reality is that there are repercussions to that in our lives. And there's no one who has been in sexual relationships with multiple partners who would tell you that there has been no effect on their emotions, on their mental state of mind, and those sorts of things that was not in some way, shape, or form impacted by the level of intimacy that they have had with the multiple partners. And so while we as men really enjoy having sex with women, I mean, honestly, when we, it's amazing the level of stress and anxiety can then just dissipate with a good orgasm. That's true with men and women. So women enjoy sex just as much as men, and they desire it just as much as men. But the reality is that if we don't take it a little bit more seriously as a society, we have seen time and again historically societies that were sexually corrupt and sexually promiscuous on a regular basis as a theme to their existence, that those nations have fallen. From in biblical times, of course, you think of Sodom and Gomorrah, but even the Roman Empire was exceptionally open and promiscuous with sexuality, and they crumbled, and that was a significant factor in their society, essentially the very fabric of it falling apart, because it is something that we have to be aware of. We look in this month's edition of Gentleman's Purpose in the relationships section, and we look at this article, and it talks about how, the Shema, which is the Jewish prayer that goes Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, this idea of God being one and God being Lord, and everything having this connectivity and being connected in ways that positive things have ripple effects and negative things have ripple effects that go far beyond just us as individuals. And so really the encouragement, gentlemen, is to think through your sexual relationships and how you engage in those, and develop a heart that sees that as committing to being connected to that person. Now, soul ties that are illicit, soul ties that happen through various sexual relations, those can be severed by the sword of the Spirit. Those wounds can be healed by the blood of Jesus, but there is fallout from that, and you may not even know that you need healing from that, but you could very well be experiencing some very difficult challenges in your life that are related. You might think that they're unrelated, but they are very much related to how we express our sexuality, how we care for, enjoy, and connect with women on a sexual level. And so check that article out in Gentleman's Purpose this month, and kind of look through those things. I mean, thank God for sex, because sex is a beautiful thing. It's a whole lot more than just continuing the species. I mean, it is something beautiful and wonderful to be able to engage in. It is something that is deeply spiritual, and there are levels of connection that happen through that. I mean, the Apostle Paul talks about this relationship between a man and a woman. When we come together in sexual relationships and marriage and things, that the husband actually has some sort of a spiritual authority over his wife, and the wife has some sort of spiritual authority over the husband, so that it's as though their respective spirits are inside one another's bodies, so that they can come together and become one flesh. It's one of the most amazing divine mysteries of being human that we learn about in the scriptures. And it's something that's certainly to be explored and enjoyed and celebrated, because it is a picture of this relationship between Christ and the church. And so I just, the strong encouragement really is to take sex more seriously, to think through and to value the relationships that you have with the person who you choose to engage in that level of intimacy with, because it is important, and it will impact your life either for the better or for the worse. So when we look at moving on, next we're looking at style. You know, we're coming up to spring, and here in Florida, it's not very often that we get to actually enjoy like layering our clothes and wearing nice overcoats and scarves and things like that, because winter is kind of like a blip on the screen here in South Florida or here in Florida. And so as we're moving into spring, we've seen some pretty cool things that are going on the runways, some crazy, ridiculous stuff as well. But some things that I like the thin ties that are happening. Prada's really been pushing those. You know, as a Florida boy, I'm a huge fan of Tommy Bahama. The large brim hats are becoming extremely popular. Me personally, there's a little place down in Mallory Square in Key West where they make handmade Panama hats. It's a large brim hat. Fantastic, gentlemen. If you can pick one of those up and have one, usually run you around 100, 150 bucks for a nice Panama hat that's handmade and everything. So that's definitely something that's being embraced. We're also seeing on the runways and on the various fashion trends that are happening for spring, the embrace of wearing sandals, even with suits. I mean, it's people are wearing sandals with everything. I mean, it's just the popular accessory. It's like almost going back to biblical times. You know, everybody's wearing sandals. Nobody's got regular sneakers anymore. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. But yeah, so also vintage is still, you know, super trendy. I want to give a shout out to Stitches and Rust. My friend Heidi over there just does a fantastic job. Travels all over the country and basically procures all these various things for her thrift shop here in Lake Worth Beach, and just everything is reasonably priced, and she just does a great job. They recently, well, not recently, but not too long ago, they moved the store to where they used to be on J Street, but now they're right on the main thoroughfare there. It's Lake Avenue here in Lake Worth Beach. And she just does a really good job. The other interesting thing about style that we're looking at is here we are 100 years this side of the Roaring 20s, a time of significant, excess, significant partying and having a good time, going out and dancing. So what we're seeing come back is like a lot of zoot suits and very loose-fitting suits are being embraced nowadays. We have gone through kind of a season of having very close fit, tight fit suits. Nothing better than a well-cut suit for a gentleman. But they're looking at on the runways and things, we're seeing for this spring a very loose fitting suit that is going to be popular, very reminiscent of those zoot suits that were worn in the 1920s. And you know, honestly, being in Florida, as hot as it gets, even in the spring, having a little bit more room within your suit, gentlemen, we know that it just kind of feels better. It's a little bit cooler, and that's a good thing. And so yeah, so those are kind of the things going on there. If you're going to be wearing sandals with everything, again, I want to highly recommend Rainbow Sandals. They've been making sandals, I think, since like the 70s for us beach goers, and they are quality. They last. They're about 50, 60 bucks, but well worth the investment as far as a pair of sandals. So a lot of cool stuff going on with style this coming spring. With regard to business, again, I mentioned this business class that we offered at Common Ground Community Development 1201 here in Lake Worth, and basically what we looked at the importance of actually writing a business plan. Now, this is kind of what I focus on in my business, General Media Consulting. We help people build strong, fruitful businesses. And one of the things that we always encourage from the very beginning, when we start working with a proprietor of a business, is writing a business plan, a formal business plan. The Harvard Business Review did a study, and they found that businesses or business people who take the things that are in their head and they actually write a formal business plan are 27% more likely to have a long-term viable business than someone who doesn't. What ends up happening is we have business ideas, and when we start to write them down, we are forced to wrestle with questions that, you know, we maybe had this big picture idea, but we didn't work through the details. And when you start doing that and you see, wait a minute, there's going to be some challenges here and some challenges there, a lot of people will basically stop at that point and say, well, actually, this doesn't look like it's going to be something that's going to make me money. And so they don't do that particular business idea. So that's one way that we can focus on reducing the number of businesses that fail as a percentage. Right now, as it stands, about 50% of the businesses that are launched in America are out of business within the first 5 years. Not starting businesses that are a waste of time and money and resources is a good way to make that number better. The other way to make that number better is, again, by working through and writing down the business plan and on a formal business plan, is that because you do wrestle with those questions ahead of time, that you're prepared to successfully navigate the business cycle and build that business as a strong, fruitful business, and your probability of success is going to increase. And so we talked about business planning and looked at that. And then we talked a little bit about, as I mentioned, networking. We talked about marketing that works, so we're not wasting our marketing dollars. We got into actually growing and scaling a business as well. And so all of that is something that you can check out on my website, generalmediaconsulting.com. And I'm happy to meet with you. I do a free initial 1-hour consultation with entrepreneurs and business owners to help them to focus on that. But I'm super, super thankful for everybody at Common Ground Community Development, namely Kelly and the folks that were there who are operating, like, for instance, they have a bakery that serves coffee and things in the lobby. They were super helpful. And me being able to come in there on Saturday mornings and kind of set up and do the presentation and also record the presentation for the website. So very, very excited about that. That was the first time that I have actually done that particular series of classes, and I'm very happy with kind of the finished result that we have in the videos and things. And so those are there as a free resource to you on our website. I want to also look at the focus of this, what the purpose of this or the mission of the Art of Business is to actually help to develop 100 wise, community-minded business professionals in Palm Beach County by January 2022. We're going to do that through clear, practical education and experimental learning That's going to include, of course, various things online and probably some more live events as well. And so I'm super excited about seeing what happens with that. With regard to dining, I was very, very excited here in South Florida to be able to meet with my friend John. John is part of an organization who has been really doing some amazing work here in South Florida, and he essentially has started something. His name's John Brewer. Has started something called the Socially Distanced Supper Club. And basically what they do, it's a group of people who essentially flash mob various different restaurants here in South Florida. So they'll schedule a time and they'll show up and everybody will eat at that restaurant wearing their face masks and everything like that in order to help these restaurant owners who have significantly been impacted by COVID restrictions and things, and it has really hit their wallet very hard. And so John is a man who's got a lot of experience in the restaurant industry. Everybody who knows me knows that I grew up in the restaurant industry myself, but John is just, I mean, he's just got a lot of experience, a lot of skill, done some work in Vegas, worked in several different restaurants, and is just doing a fantastic job with this. So I was able to meet with him, and we met at a local Italian eatery, which I happen to really favor. I actually went, first time I went there, a friend of mine, Callie Jane, we had just become friends. We met over there at Common Ground Church, and we were looking for something to do and grab a bite to eat or something. And she says, you got to check this place out. It's amazing. And so we had some pizza there that night, and it was really, really good. And certainly was not disappointed with the food that they have at Frankie's. And I've been back there several times since then to enjoy the various things on their menu. So I was able to meet with John there and get to know him face to face. We first met online. He did a feature on the Anchor Inn, my buddy Rob over there, and he just can't speak highly enough about John. I'm super thankful for what he and that group of people are doing with the Socially Distanced Supper Club. Again, growing up in the restaurant business, just got a heart for people who are in that particular industry. And so shout out to Cafe Frankie's. There's a full review on them in this month's magazine, so check that out. And certainly if you're in the Boynton Beach area, stop in and have some pizza with them. I actually didn't have pizza when I was there with John. I had like a grilled salmon wrap. It was good. I was kind of wanting something light that day. It was perfect. I mean, it totally hit the spot. So check that out. And with regard to books, as many of you know, I'm involved with Florida Atlantic University, where they have a mentoring program where I'm able to connect with business students on a one-on-one basis. And I'm currently working with two students, one from Nigeria and the other one from Vietnam originally. The gentleman from Vietnam is also a small business owner in Palm Beach Gardens. He runs a dry cleaning business, and then the young lady who is from Nigeria is an accounting major. He's a finance major. So one of the things that we've been working on, me and the young man from Vietnam, is what's called the SIE. That's the Securities Industry Essentials Exam. I come from a background of being in finance and working in the stock market and those sorts of things. I was in the financial industry here in Palm Beach County for about 14 years, beginning while I was in university, working as an intern, all the way through my career as a branch manager for a national financial firm. And since then, I've been out of the industry for a few years. And of course, my licenses that allow me to do that, my Series 7, 63, 24, 4, all those expire after a certain period of time. The entity that basically puts those tests out there for you to become a stockbroker or a securities principal is called FINRA. Now, FINRA recently launched a new exam that it does not require a financial firm to sponsor you to be able to take the exam. And that is the SIE, the Securities Industry Essentials Exam. You can buy a study prep book for like $20. It costs you $60 to sit for the test. It's 85 questions. Only 75 of those questions are actually counted. The other 10 are just basically them testing various questions for the development of that educational exam. So I tell you all that because I highly recommend, gentlemen, to pick up the SIE exam prep book and study it. I would also encourage you to go and pay the $60 and take the test, because since you don't have to be certified or you don't have to be sponsored, you can take the test, sit for the test for free, and you'll have something amazing to go on your resume for 4 years, and it's going to open a lot of doors. Generally speaking, though, as gentlemen, we oftentimes do networking for whatever business that we are in, and to be well versed in the U.S. financial markets is something that should be a reality for every gentleman. You should be able to have an intelligent conversation regarding the stock market, investing, various investments with people. Even if you pay an advisor or something to do your stuff, you want to understand what's going on. You can't, gentlemen, we cannot be blind to what was going on, like with Madoff and these shysters out there. We need to be well informed and take personal responsibility for our finances. And this is an exam that will take you maybe 30 days to study for it. You go in, you sit for the test, and it'll definitely be something that will build you up and equip you to understand the financial markets and understand the inner workings and the various governing bodies around that. So that is part of the recommended additions for your library for March 2021 Gentleman's Purpose e-magazine. Moving from the financial aspect, there's a book that's recommended in this month's edition called Agape Road. This is a difficult book. I first heard about this book when I was participating in a home fellowship in Jupiter, Florida. I had been teaching at a local recovery community Bible study on Friday nights called Happy Hour, where I met some people, and they said, "Hey, we know some folks who have a home fellowship on Saturday nights. You want to come with us?" So I went up there with a group of my friends, and I met these guys who were basically co-laboring together, two gospel ministers, and they had mentioned this book, that it was one of the most effective resources that they've ever come across for discipleship. Now, over the years, I have come to love this book and to hate this book with a passion, because it really, the seeds that are planted from this particular book will wreck you. I mean, it is all about a spiritual journey to grow in self-giving, sacrificial love. And when you are as self-centered and as arrogant and those sorts of things as I have been in my life, it takes a lot of soul-crushing discipline to come to a place of loving other people genuinely, of loving God genuinely first and foremost, but actually not, I don't know how to say this, I guess really significantly overcoming the giants in your life, the spiritual giants, those things that we constantly want to look good, we constantly want to feel good, and if we don't feel good, then we kind of go out of our way to push other people out of the way or step on other people in order to help us feel good or look good or those sorts of things. And it really focuses on the development of Christian character, specifically as it relates to what genuine love is. And it is a very challenging book. I can definitely see why these gospel ministers have said that it is one of the most effective discipleship tools. When we talk about spiritual things, when we read a book, it's like planting a seed. And when those seeds are prayerfully written by a person who is spirit-filled, as I believe Bob Mumford, the author of the book, was, they can have significant long-term effects on your discipleship and on your life, because words have power, the power of life or death. And so I highly recommend the book, but I give you certain warning that if you do not take your discipleship seriously, then you will end up really not liking this book. But if you are trying to grow as a human being, you will eventually grow to have a significant appreciation for the work of Bob Mumford in this book, Agape Road, Journey to Intimacy with the Father. So that is recommended reading for those of you who are serious about your discipleship. With the South Florida music scene, I usually have been highlighting three local bands that I come across, either in the work that I do with places like the Acre Inn, which is also a music venue, or some of the other places that I work with and frequent. Um, and as I hear local talent, I like to highlight them there, give you a link within the magazine to actually go to either their YouTube station or someplace where you can actually hear their music and then start to hopefully connect with them as they are playing local venues here in South Florida. This month we looked at Spider Cherry, who I first heard at Key Lime House, old Key Lime House here in South Florida. Sierra Lane, who I connected with somehow via I think social media or something. Really, really talented young lady. And then this Bernadette Nayari. Now Bernadette Nayari is a whole different level. I mean, she is a super, super talented musician. She is a Jewish woman, and it's not the local bar scene type music, which I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, I'm an old school like classic rock kind of guy, but hers is much more classical. Just got an amazing voice, and so you can check her out if you are a person who really appreciates various types of music and music genres. And also, if you have a band, if you're a band locally here in South Florida, and you would like to be featured in the Gentleman's Purpose e-magazine, send me an email at justin@generalmediaconsulting.com with a link to your YouTube page, and I'll check out your music and stuff. And if it's something that I think that I want to go ahead and feature in the magazine, then I would be happy to do that. And also invite anyone who would be interested in maybe even doing an interview and talking about how you're growing as a musician here in Florida and kind of how that musical talent has developed, what the scene has been like for you. Always interested in connecting with local musicians and focusing on helping them to develop their careers. Spring training's here. We're getting time for baseball, man, and I don't know about you guys, but I love sports. Not the type of person who really has always liked to sit down and watch sports. Always been the type of person who likes to kind of get involved and play sports. Although I have to say, as a young man, baseball was my mom's thing. She loved to be the coach. She was a beast. I mean, she loved to win, and she was adamant about it. And so she loved it more than I did. I used to hate getting up at 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings, but that was her thing. And so I grew up doing baseball, and I've definitely grown to appreciate it over time. I remember watching Braves baseball with my grandpa Morgan, sitting in there in my underwear and an old white T-shirt that belonged to my grandpa, sitting there watching David Justice for the Atlanta Braves. And so in this month's edition of Gentleman's Purpose, we've got some great gear out there for you to kind of get involved with actually playing ball. There's a lot of great leagues that you can get involved in, city leagues, church leagues. I remember one time I'd just become a stockbroker working for a guy by the name of Kendall Shaw down in Fort Lauderdale near Powerline in Cypress Creek, and he basically was one of the first. I'd say second, like really solid Christian boss that I had, and he had a little baseball league, a church baseball league that he was part of, and took me out there, and I hadn't played ball in many years, and so it didn't go so well, but I had a good time though. And so in this edition of Gentleman's Purpose, the March edition, there's some great gear, everything from cleats to baseball bat, gloves and things like that. So if you're looking to get some exercise and get involved this spring training season with actually playing some ball and getting out there and maybe getting that exercise in, getting a little bit of health, building those relationships with other men, super important. And so I want to encourage you to kind of take a look at some of the gear that's highlighted in this month's magazine. I also want to give a shout out to the guys up at Burn Up Company in West Palm Beach. These guys focus on acquiring and restoring and selling vintage motorcycles. Not so much your Harley Davidsons, but much more rare stuff like Nortons and various different things. If you go into this place, it is absolutely amazing. It's almost like going into a motorcycle. What do you call it? Almost like going into a motorcycle uh, museum. And these bikes are just absolutely amazing. They do a great job of customizing, of restoring these various motorcycles. So I would check them out. It's Burn Up Company, Vintage Motorcycles. Follow them on Instagram because they do some amazing photography of some of these various machines that are just, I mean, if you're a guy and you like motorcycles and motors and stuff like that, these guys just they do a great job up there, and want to encourage you to support the work they're doing. Support small business, man. And this is one gentleman that is super, super awesome. This month, as far as travel goes, I've been to Texas a few times in my life. My aunt and uncle related to my stepdad lived there, and we went out there for Christmas a couple times and had just a really, really good time connecting with them. And they're just real good people, and so I've always enjoyed my visits to Texas. And so with COVID and everything going on, man, airline tickets can be super, super cheap. Right now, you can take a trip on Spirit Airlines. You can fly from Fort Lauderdale to Houston for like less than $100. Like, that's crazy, like round trip. And so if you're looking for maybe a long weekend with the missus, or just to get away and hit up a bed and breakfast someplace and kind of check out a new area for less than $100, that's like I've had bar tabs more than that. And you can fly to Texas and actually kind of scoot around town, maybe rent a car or something like that, and just enjoy a change of atmosphere for less than $100. And so there's a little article in there on the magazine as well called Texas Style Mentoring. It's a funny joke, and so check that out, and you might get a couple laughs from it. But as far as so many really cool things to be able to see in Houston and in Austin, Texas, and obviously checking out a ranch and connecting with maybe do some horseback riding in Texas. I mean, these are the types of things you want to be able to have on your bucket list. That right now, because of the low cost of airfare, you can really check those off your bucket list and enjoy something fun for a long weekend or something. Check out the Rio Grande River, and some of the local food there can be amazing. I want to give a shout out also, my buddy over at Brooks Moving and Hauling here in South Florida. This is a guy I used to do prison ministry with, and he is just a great guy. He married into a family that owned Dove Air Conditioning, and Simon, the owner of Dove Air Conditioning, he of course wants your son-in-law to come on board and do the air conditioning thing, but Steve really was more interested in kind of running his own business and wanted to be a business owner as well. So he started Brooks Moving and Hauling years ago, and recently bought a new truck. So business is obviously going really well for him. There's a lot of local moving that happens, and that's what he focuses on. Very, very trustworthy guy. I actually went up there and worked with him one time for a day, and just a great group of guys that he employs, and they've just got a lot of respect for him. And when you see a team that really respects the business owner, there's something special about that, and you definitely see that with Brooks Moving and Hauling. So if you're in South Florida, need some local movers for any reason, check them out. They're 561-891-0456. And then last but not least, sometimes you need to go get a haircut, gentlemen. Keep yourself looking sharp, get that beard trimmed up and whatnot. So I want to encourage you to go down and check out Sheer Cut Barbershop here in downtown Lake Worth. They always do a fantastic job. They've recently partnered with Matthews Brewery, so you can actually enjoy some complimentary beer while you're waiting for your haircut there. Very old school barbershop as far as the decor and everything. The guys are always super nice there, and the gals always super nice there. And just a great place to get a really high quality haircut and be treated really well as on top of that. So That is Sheer Cut Barbershop in Lake Worth Beach, Florida. Give them a call and make an appointment. It's 561-582-0599. And other than that, that's Gentleman's Purpose here this evening. And we are just super happy to be connecting with you again. And hopefully everything went smoothly as far as the connection with the broadcast tonight. Also, of course, want to encourage any of you who are entrepreneurs or business owners, if you would like some help building a strong, fruitful business, please give me a phone call, 1-800-484-9825. I would be happy to connect with you and meet with you and offer you that free initial consultation. Even if you just come away from the conversation with a couple ideas to help you to build that strong, fruitful business, then that's fine. Otherwise, I would love to be able to help you and come alongside you in the process of building a strong, fruitful business. So this is Justin Gaynor with Gentleman's Purpose. Appreciate you guys joining me for tonight's live stream, and I will see you next time.